Okay, this is going to be a short one. I just wanted to add that the Air India Flight 171 crash again. It's something that, regardless of how you analyze it, is something that should not happen. And the public and the passengers shouldn't all be they should, but they don't really need to be engineers and pilots to know that. And again, a lot of the pilots who analyze it, they're analyzing from the pilot's point of view, but then I think it would be a lot more authoritative if there's an engineering element in it. So, the engineering elements is missing. But then again, none of the people involved, what I'm saying, the Indian government, the U.S. government, the AAIB of India, the FAA of the United States, the British AAIB, the FAA. Did I just say that? The manufacturer of the plane, the engine manufacturer of the plane, none of them have come forward. They haven't said a word, except for the very minimum. And even the very minimum, the preliminary report that they required to do within 30 days, was not only way too brief, but it contained unclear information. And as correctly stated by a lot of the expert pilots who have the channel. So what I wanted to add is, again, any major incidents like that, there should be a spokesperson who give an update every day, right? You see all the disasters, crimes, whatever, there's going to be a spokesman, every day, White House, things, if you don't know, you say you don't know. In a case like that, it's an unprecedented case, unprecedentedly impossible
So previously,
case,
we've
and
established that
lack of
the official
information and transparency.
narratives from the airline,
so I like to stress
Indian,
that
the
for
U.S.
me,
government, and the manufacturer. There's actually has been no narrative. They said nothing. And also, the mandatory by law preliminary report from the Indian government
has zero credibility.
they only have a very inconcise
either the manufacturer, the government, or
dissemination
the operators.
of a report.
So what I wanted to just simply add is that
my
this
view
is so shameful. They constantly come and say it's the most advanced airplane and all that. Yeah,
based on
we
that.
have the knowledge and ability
Also,
to do
there
things
has
that
been a lot of pilots with
don't crash,
very
never
a
mind,
lot of
don't crash
experience.
that way. I mean, that should be
no
like
intention.
the beginning of
speculating
aviation.
a lot of different things.
I stress it every time. It's a
Technically,
minimum
it doesn't
of
matter
100% business.
because those are not
Obviously,
pilot,
there are
not actually
a long list
pilot
of
issues.
things
They are
that were
physics
done
and engineering issues.
way below 100%,
so,
and that's how it happened. And
in the beginning, there are
so
people whose
my quick thought is that you look at
speculated
1927 when Charles
used.
Lindbergh, you may not
There
be
has been
old enough to know that, by 1927, Charles Lindbergh
speculation of
first to do
contaminations and a lot of
fuel
different things.
flight
Anyway,
across the
now
Atlantic.
30 days
It's
has
a
well
very little
passed,
airplane. In
and
fact, I
the
think the wingspan
Indian
of the airplane
government have released
is about as
some
wide as a
information
wide-body
that is
aircraft
not
these days.
concise or questionable.
And he flew
In
without
any
any
case, they blame the
what they
pilot.
call advanced
However,
no
it
electricity.
remains that
Right, other than what keeps the
American
spark
FAA
plugs going.
and the
I don't think he
British
had a
FAA
light inside
has
the
been
airplane.
reported to
Just a
have
huge fuel tank.
official
Everything space he had
service
was for a fuel tank. He didn't
advisories
even
and-
have
and
forward
probably
vision because he had a big fuel tank
directives.
in front of him.
Concerning
All
the
steam gauges and a whole bunch of valves and things to turn it off, on and off the fuel tank. And he was sitting on
switches.
a wicker chair.
And
I don't even
with all
think he
the
had a
things that
seatbelt.
in
And he
an
crossed the
airplane
Atlantic
is not
in
possible
storms,
for
up in
everything to
altitude
be
and low,
it's not possible, but
over crashing waves
it's
that
highly
had almost
unlikely
as high
in the
as
operational
his
environment
flight. He made
at
it
the
across
dispatch
the
rate
Atlantic.
that everything is working
And now fast forward
as per design
to
when the airplane
100 years
is completely new.
later.
In fact, there has been a lot of
Literally
reports
just about
that
100
airplanes
years later.
We're not anyway.
We have
so,
advanced, and technology is so advanced
fast forward that basically
is some of the
there are only
the
two
things that go into this airplane
scenarios
is literally
that can
like
cause all of
science
the
fiction
engines,
technology.
in this case two, to fail
And
at
what
the same
happened?
time.
The
Starvation,
passengers who
and
paid the
the other
fare,
one is
they
electrical
effectively
starvation.
didn't even get a flight,
One
never
can
mind,
cause the other to
arriving
happen.
at the destination, and they died in the
Some
most
pilots
horrible
have
way.
now put a detailed analysis to show that.
And think about that.
They have
100
concluded, or at least derived,
from the invention
that
of the airplane
ram air
1903
turbine, the
to
emergency
breaking
electrical generator has popped
away
out
from the speed with
before
which
the
this
fuel
crash
starvation.
airline had achieved
So it's the
180
electrical
knots or so.
first. And
Literally,
of all the
only took
likelihood,
about 25 years.
Electrical, physical
In fact,
fuel,
in
and pilot
early
input,
1930, they went.
which is
They
the
went
most likely,
the,
which
the
is
seaplane
most
races.
remote.
I think they went
the
400 miles or
astronomically
maybe
remote
above.
case would be the pilot suicide.
And then,
because there
and then
not
in
only
the
that is unlikely, but also if you want to do that at that height,
the sound barrier
easier
was
and
broken.
more sure way to do that.
And then soon enough, the X-50
as you know, driving
flew out
car
of
these
space
days,
within
full
50
of
years.
computers,
And
the
100 years later,
electrical,
we'll have an airplane that's
most
no faster than
not likely. They are common
70
problems.
years ago,
And
no
these
higher,
airplanes being
much more
so
sophisticated.
they're no different.
But
Especially
it is
working
not
in such
doing
extreme
anything better
environment,
than
hot, cold,
than
humid.
7 decades,
inside
like
an
3
airplane gets
generations
very hard.
of people,
And
maybe
also,
4 or 5 generations
software.
of human
These
beings
airplanes,
ago.
the
Before,
787,
and the only
is
thing
a
they
brand
really
new type of
achieved
airplane.
is
it's not like they have decades experience. Anyway,
saving fuel.
so
the
the
airlines
latest
can
is
make more
that
profit. Charles Lindbergh, when he crossed the Atlantic, he didn't even have a radio.
because
nothing.
There's no official
An airplane, a little engine, and a wooden propeller.
So
the airplane is top up with fuel so much so it barely cleared the trees when it took off.
Based on
think about this,
like facts
he crossed the
reasoning,
Atlantic
is that
in one
either
hop in a
the
tiny
pilot,
airplane.
The fuel,
The
electronic
entire
or
fuel
of all of
capacity
them, by far,
of his airplane
the electrical
was about
would be the
1/3 of
And
what it takes
either
a
electrical,
747
electronics,
to go
or
from the gate,
fuel
taxi to the
starvation.
runway
either lack of
for takeoff.
electricity,
And he
either
crossed the
electricity
Atlantic.
starvation or fuel starvation.
And
would
100
cause
years
all the
later,
engines to fail.
you have an airplane that's so
electrical,
called sophisticated,
starvation
literally
can cause fuel starvation
just took off and
because
crashed.
there's no computer.
And they tried to blame the
control
pilot,
operate the pump.
and I explained
With
in
the
the
engine,
previous
fuel
videos,
starvation, stop
that
the
is
engine,
the most
the engines
unlikely.
will not be running the
And
generator generally
I'm not saying that it could,
It's one
but of
cause the
all
other.
the things that it
And
could bring
the
it down
pilot-
at that point,
the pilot suicide,
the pilot
I think
is
is astronomically
most unlikely reason why.
So here's
it
this is the
it
short
got- it
short clip
crashed.
of what
And a lot of
summary
pilots,
what I think
and
is
a
the
lot of the
latest.
so-called
Thanks for
experts
watching.
said that, the ram air turbine, the rest deployed because it ran out of electricity from all the sources and things like that. Well, and you don't know that. You know the rat deployed, but this is software driven. So the software is supposed to be written for that way, but in all these software, just like in your car, the modern car these days is no different. You got to check engine light. Guess what happened? Your light broken. Your gas cap, is not screwing tight enough. You got to check engine light, and you would have thought this sophisticated computer with millions of lines on it would be able to figure out between the engine and the gas cap, and your cars run just fine. The gas cap is just not, it's screwed on, but it's not just as tight as they wanted to. So the pressures, the experience from the pump and all that is just a little bit different. And so what happened is that the way they detect things ultimately is transferred to a voltage. And so somehow the voltage drops somewhere, and it could be system-wide, and it could be they think, it could be the battery. They think your battery, maybe your alternator, maybe all kind of thing. They don't know, some of these things are written so sloppy. They don't know where the voltage dropped from, And to say that the rats only deployed, because that doesn't necessarily mean that. You don't know that. You haven't seen the real-time data of all the sensor and all the voltage where things are. You can't say that. You can only say that they designed to do that. But because this has gone so wrong, nothing on this flight has things worked out as they designed. Because you can say, you carry that argument. The airplane is designed to, you push a few buttons. Literally these things airplanes get. You punch in the numbers in the computer, you set the throttle and everything in the right position, the switch in the position, the airplane can take off and land on its own with your arms crossed all the way from standstill on the takeoff all the way to the destination on the runway to a full stop. So that's what the airplane is supposed to do. But at the very minimum, the airplane is supposed to have these two people, brilliant pilots in the cockpit, set all the right switches, go to the cockpit, and you push some buttons and levers. The airplane is supposed to take off positively with these amazing jet engines, fly up to 35,000 feet, where you can't live, keep the pressure and all that, and cruise at 600 miles an hour near the speed of sound to your destination. No sweat. That was supposed to do. But it didn't. So how are you going to be able to say, well, this is supposed to do? He's not. He didn't do any of the things he's supposed to be doing. I mean, he didn't do the things enough that would even make it a safe flight. In fact, it's just crashed on takeoff, literally on takeoff. These people say, well, 300, 400 feet. Well, it's 300 and something, 400 feet at the sensor, which is placed on the nose. The airplane is nose up. So the airplane is like 150 something feet long, going at something like 30 degrees angle. The average height of the airplane, like where the wings are, that's how the airplane basically fly, is where the wings are. The wings probably only about 300 feet off the ground. That's just like 1.5 wingspan. So again, a lot of these people who do these videos, they could be pilots, they could be experts in computers and stuff like that, but they really, I wouldn't want to say they don't know what they're talking about, but the consideration is not detailed enough and doesn't carry enough clarity to show the truth, which the public and the flying passenger should know. The passengers, if passengers are pilots, they wouldn't be passengers. They'd be getting paid in the cockpit flying the airplanes, right? But they're not. So why do they need to know what the switches and things? There are hundreds of switches. Have you ever seen a picture of the cockpit? There's like a sea of switches and lights and buttons and stuff like that, and you're all blaming on a little switch. Oh gosh, if that one of those switches is the focus of the thing, how many of those can go wrong? So you just don't know. The passengers shouldn't know. All passengers need to know is that we have had, since the Wright brothers, we have over 120 years of flying experience with millions upon millions of people, engineers, factory workers, pilots, and things who accumulated this knowledge, the ability to have amazing flight performance and more than 100% flight safety has been achieved in most of the flight, and they actually know they know how to achieve 100% for 100% of the flight. It's just a matter of money. Even with the military, the money is a limit. But again, I want to stress that the knowledge and ability to make 100% safe flight for 100% of the flight is there. And granted, yes, there could be a limitation of money and even error that accumulated in some cases. Yes, so previously we've established that. But after the official 20-some years of this, with the accumulated knowledge of countless millions of people, and maybe billions of flight hours, to have a crash like this, the most modern jetliner with
from the Indian government,
engines,
they only have a very
they are like the dream of a propulsion designer
in concise
in mind. And it didn't even
of a report.
I mean, yeah, it took off the ground, but it's like crash on takeoff. That is not acceptable. And also
there's
the
no
way,
credibility,
and it's also shameful.
And also
if you look at, again, compared to say for Charles Lindbergh, has no certification, it was zero. Carries the amount of fuel that would really take you from the gate to the runway for these aircraft. And even after that, the license mean nothing. And none of the authorities and operators companies came out and say anything other than below the minimum of what they should do.
Pilots,
And also the third point is that a lot of people say, well, 250 or whatever, how many hundreds of people died in the It's actually a lot more than that.
And a lot of different things. Anyway, now 30 days
because people put in their actual existence in their life to make these things. The countless number of commute hours, the materials, and the knowledge they need to go to school, the time, the millions upon millions of hours of people put into designing, testing, manufacturing these things.
Has been reported to have
and the airplane could last another 20-something years.
Advisories
and all that effort,
probably
all the lives and time of these people, way of life that got into making this airplane, they're gone.
The fuel
and the material, I don't even know what they. People have no idea what it takes to make an airplane, and especially an airplane this big and this sophisticated. And on top of that, the most highest concentration of effort and material of the engines.
That everything is working
they take the cumulative of literally hundreds, if not billions, of man-hour know-hows and experience to manufacture something like that. No, it's not just the hundreds of passengers and people on the ground. You're talking about millions upon millions upon millions of man-hours worth of life just went down the drain. And this is not acceptable.
The other to happen.
The airplane part where the mechanical part obviously worked. The engine is working. In the end, the airplane didn't break apart.
That the ram air turbine,
the only things that can cause this is either fuel
generator
or electrical starvation. And I explained in the previous episode, one can cause the other.
And of all the likelihood,
you have no fuel to run the engines and the generator, then you can't generate electricity.
And pilot input,
the engine needs a little bit of electricity to fire, to ignite the fuel. But if you don't, so if you run out of fuel, you have no electricity, so the engine will not run either, and the other system will not run. But if you don't have electricity, because again, it's like your car, modern car, there's so many computers and things like that, they can overheat, the software can go wrong, again, your gas cap could be not tightened, and it could affect system-wide. That's how it happens. We know that. Modern cars are all like that.
Airplanes being sophisticated.
For some reason,
especially working in such extreme environments,
either fuel or electricity failed. Electricity failed, then there's nothing to feed to pump the fuel into the engines to make it go.
It's a brand new type
and why do you need that?
It's not like they have decades experience.
Anyway, there is a reason why to say fuel.
The latest is that
in the earlier days, there's no computers for even jet airplanes. There's no computers on the engines.
No official,
there's a valve.
Satisfactory explanation.
Your gas pedal is a valve, or your engine lever is a valve.
But as far as I can see,
you push it, opens up the valve more or less. And
if you like,
it doesn't need electricity to control that.
Is that it's either the pilot, the fuel,
just like the modern cars, like, why do you need electric windows? I mean,
the electronic,
like tailgate, car tailgate. Tailgate maybe for some people, but for the trunk, how difficult it is to lift the trunk?
Or fuel starvation.
The windows,
either lack of electricity,
you can just wind it.
Either electricity starvation,
and the sunroofs in the windows. After a certain time, they all fail, right?
And electrical
and all the cars after 5 or 10 years, almost every car drives around with the engine check lights on.
If the engine, if the fuel starvation,
little things that don't affect anything.
Engines will not be running the
engine check light on.
Electricity.
So you think that these airplanes that are
the pilot,
probably like 10 times more sophisticated, maybe they're not, but anyway, they are same level of sophistication. There are a lot of things going on, and so but anyway, my point is that
summary of
in light
is the latest.
Compared to say Charles Lindbergh crossing the Atlantic in 1927 with zero technology, and if compared to these days, with 1/3 of the tanker, or 1/3 of the fuel it takes to taxi these airplanes to the runway, and he was in a seatbelt, sitting in a wicker chair, flew over the ocean, and you have this huge big commercial airliner, the latest technology, carbon fiber, titanium, single crystal, composite, clearance control, a an atomizer for the combustion engines that took 20 years to develop. All that stuff, how the wing bends and how to relieve loads, and windows that electronically dim themselves, and generators from the engines and the generator generating enough electricity to power a small city. Then guess what happened? It didn't even take. It basically crashed on takeoff. So this is not acceptable. So that's what I want to stress. It's the comparison with Charles Lindbergh, and things are getting complicated, and for fuel saving sake, and it's actually now endangering the plane and the people in it and the people below the plane. Right. The second thing is that the public should not need to even have to deal with that. We just need to know is that 100% safety on 100% of flight is achievable, and that's not done. I can't remember what the third point. Anyway, so this is what I want to blab about on this episode. Thanks for listening. Bye.